Helen's Helen's notes, A Course in Miracles. Miracles make time and tide. Okay, so no, starting. Okay, you are a miracle. That's right. You are a miracle. God creates only that quote that which or one who is of surpassing excellence or merit. Man is capable of this kind of creation too, being in the image and likeness of his own creator. The way that quote started, it's not giving me an end quote. But anyway, anything else is only his own nightmare and does not exist. Only the creations of light are real. Some of that sounds like it's in the actual book. Um, you are a miracle. Joy, peace, goodness, strength, tenderness, kindness. That's what a miracle is. There are actual physical miracles. Jesus of Nazareth, did actual physical miracles, but that's all included in what a miracle is, in terms of a miracle being anything, thought, word, action, that is filled with nothing but joy, peace, goodness, strength, vitality, exuberance, love, care, consideration, tenderness, fondness, liking, and zero negative emotions, no doubt, fear, remorse, resentment, anger, loneliness, worry, anxiety, uncertainty, etc., etc. That's what a miracle is, in terms of ACIM. So you are a miracle. That's right. That you are a miracle. God creates only, and I've got one little quote here, and it doesn't have an end quote, but that which or one who is of surpassing excellence or merit. Man is capable of this kind of creation too, being in the image of likeness of his own creator. And the phrase there, image and likeness of his own creator, may actually be in A Course in Miracles. But, nothing wrong with what it's saying here. Strive, be excellent. Um, Jesus like, be excellent. Absolutely nothing wrong with everything about that idea. And certainly, um, one of the major ideas in ACIM is man is supposed to extend God, meaning, um, create in joyous, peaceful, loving, good, strong fashion. Man is capable of creating similarly to God in terms of love, etc., etc. Um, being in the image and likeness of his own creator. That little phrase might be an ACIM, but uh, yes, as far as like the Bible sentence, man is created in the image of God. There is a truth to that in terms of mind, and spirit. There's a truth to that in those terms of, um, you know, every moment to moment, filled with nothing but joy, peace, strength, goodness, etc., etc. Nothing opposing that in any way in terms of negative emotions. Um, yes, so that's how man is supposed to create, similar to how God creates. Anything else is only his own nightmare and does not exist. That might be in the book. So, nightmare would be ego mentality in ACIM terms. Um, any doubt, the slightest little mental upset, fear, remorse, worry, anxiety, loneliness, any negative emotion in any way whatsoever, uncertainty, doubt, etc., etc. Any of those types of emotions to the least degree is, in ACIM terms, a nightmare. That's ego mentality. So anything else is only his own ego, is his own nightmare, and does not exist. So because negative emotions, negative feelings in any way, are not the will of God. They are not the will of God. Therefore, they do not exist in eternity. Man can create that for himself, ego mentality for himself, in terms of negative emotions. Man can create that for himself on a temporary basis. Um, so the goal of ACIM is to get out of all negative emotions and live in phenomenal tranquility and certainty and no conflicts of thought. Like the sentence in the in the manual says, nothing you say is contradicted by what you think or do. No thought opposes any other thought. That's the place to get to mentally for real Jesus God consciousness, or Buddha enlightenment. So, but ACIM, says it very blatantly, like, and does not exist. It exists on a temporary basis. I mean, there's a lot of sentences in this book, so you have to put them all together to really come to the understanding of what it's saying. As far as those negative emotions exist only on a temporary basis. Only the creations of light are real. So again, only those things which are filled with joy, peace, goodness, and the will of God, and love, care, consideration, all that. That's the only thing that's actually real. Thought, word, and action for everyone, moment to moment. um, Now we have some Helen's Helen. This isn't the ACIM automatic writing. Helen is writing some things down here. I'm not going to read it or say anything about it. So then another sentence here, miracles rest on the law and order of eternity. I don't immediately recognize that as a sentence in A Course in Miracles, but it may be, because it's a good one. It's certainly true. Miracles rest on the law and order of eternity. So the laws of God are a real thing. God, the first person of the Trinity. There is a Trinity, three persons, three eternal persons who know of themselves as persons. That's the Trinity. Miracles rest on the law and order of eternity. The laws of God is an expression in this book, A Course in Miracles, many, many times. So God has laws. An important sentence about that. Um, One of the sentences that I keep handy. There are many sentences in ACIM that I have written down that I just keep them available because they get the point across even better than some of the other sentences to me. So here's a sentence in the book. God himself created the law by creating by it. In other words, the first person of the Trinity, in terms of his own creation, um, um, the way God creates, that's what becomes the law. So it's not that God makes a law and says, you do that. God creates by his own laws, and that's how laws are established from a natural standpoint. God creates by his laws, and so then they become the laws for everyone, every being in existence, man or angel or other spirit being. So God himself created the law by creating by it. Miracles rest on the law and order of eternity. Certainly within the laws of God, there is order in the sense of peace, um, strength, eternal patience. The book talks a lot about the ego mentality, is hard driven behavior, rushed, and other negative emotions about um, meaningless activity in terms of just staying busy versus strong, proper, good, loving actions in a strong, good, calm, tranquil, peaceful way, moment to moment. That's how everything should be done. Every moment, moment to moment, in every way. That's order. That's you know. Um, all right, so we got some more here. Strictly Helen writing. This is not the automatic writing. Well, I'll read some of this here. As long as you read, no, as long as you take accurate notes, every word is meaningful. But I can't always get through. Whenever possible, I will correct retroactively. Be sure to note all later corrections. This means that you are more receptive than you were when I tried before. Well, at least that sounds like it's channeled, as opposed to some of these other sentences in here that don't sound like they're channeled as far as automatic writing. But that one does, because as Helen writes this, she'll scratch a word out and put another word in there. So that's the correcting retroactively in terms of that sentence there. Whenever possible, the author here says, I will correct retroactively. It's an interesting paragraph in terms of how the um, automatic writing came through Helen by a spirit author. Um, and certainly every word in ACIM is meaningful. As long as you take accurate notes, every word is meaningful. Yeah, every word in A Course in Miracles is meaningful, and a sentence in the book is absolutely everything should have purpose and meaning in every moment. Clear-cut positive goals is another expression in this book. Nothing should be gone into with uncertainty or the attitude of let's just see what happens. Nothing ever. Everything, every moment is filled with purpose and meaning from the outset. That's a sentence in the book more than once. The idea is expressed in the book. That's another truth about how to live. Miracles are a part of an interlocking chain of forgiveness, which, when completed, is the atonement. So the atonement. I, I, I could. I mean, I've looked it up in the dictionary. I don't care per se at the moment. It's just that atonement certainly is oneness with God. Uh, Again, for me, that's Jesus at his baptism, where um, complete and total God consciousness, nothing but a very easy, strong sense of tranquility, joy, peace, goodness, love, care, consideration, tenderness, mercy, all of it, moment to moment, um, in terms of how to think, how to talk, how to act, the atonement, oneness with God as a human being walking the earth plane. Um, um, and ACIM talks a lot about forgiveness. A lot of this has to do with forgiveness, forgiving myself or anyone, forgiving themselves, and of course forgiving anyone that anyone has any kind of a problem with in terms of anything negative about anyone. Forgiveness, absolutely essential to what the book is talking about in terms of spiritual development. Miracles are a part of an interlocking chain of forgiveness, which, when completed, is the atonement. Um, there's a lot of ideas about that. The book uses the word forgiveness a tremendous number of times in terms of really living what that is in every way. Um, this process works all the time and in all dimensions of time. That sentence might be in the book, and also the interlocking chain of forgiveness, which one that might be in the book too. This process works all the time and in all dimensions of time. Sounds like I remember that from the actual A Course in Miracles book. A very good example of how this is accomplished is the time. No, okay, so now um, this is not the automatic writing or whatever. It's not in A Course in Miracles. Something in here about your brother's keeper. Um, I, that might be in the book. I mean, we are our brother's keeper in the proper understanding of what that means. Love for all and getting on the same page in terms of beliefs. This is an eternal truth. Getting on the same page in terms of beliefs is an eternal truth. So, in that sense, we are our brother's keeper. And there's other things about that idea, I'm sure. No, none of this is in the book that I'm reading. It's not in the book, and all right. So this sounds like it's in the book. I am in charge of the process of atonement, which I undertook to begin. My atonement was for the canceling out of all sins which human beings could not otherwise correct. That is what the biblical statement underneath are the everlasting arms means. I'm not sure if that's in A Course in Miracles, all of it, but certainly the first half sounds familiar. So the author here, and many believe that Jesus of Nazareth is the author here. I do not. There's nothing wrong with posing as Jesus of Nazareth as a seraphim or an angel, for example, who actually dictated the material. I do believe this material came from a spirit being of some kind. And if it's just a simple seraphim who's doing all this automatic writing through Helen and posing as Jesus of Nazareth, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't even want to say more about that. I mean, I'm sure there's other things about that, but it doesn't matter. So the author here is in charge of the process of atonement, which I undertook to begin. Jesus of Nazareth did attain what real enlightenment is in terms of phenomenal joy, peace, strength, no conflicts of thought, no conflicts in any way. Um, he attained that mentality, the enlightened mentality. Others have also attained that. Many others have attained that in the history of this world. Um, uh, and Jesus is in charge of the brotherhood as a spirit being. Um, Jesus is in charge of the brotherhood of all of humanity. There are other truths about that, but that's more or less what ACIM says about it. The author here is saying, my atonement was for the canceling out of all sins which human beings could not otherwise correct. Uh, I mean, there are major truths to that, but it's more the Urantia book. The Urantia book talks about the major truths of that particular sentence idea to me. That is what the biblical statement underneath are the everlasting arms means. That does not sound like ACIM, A Course in Miracles, like it's in there, but it could be. Okay, so now we have some more here that's just Helen writing to me. It may be automatic writing, but it's not in the book. Something about Esther, Esther, maybe a friend of Helen's. I have no idea. Right at the end here, something about if you had known. This is the all right. So I'm reading from from the transcript here, Helen's notes. For I'll just say for yourself and for me, the author is saying here, you would have done it with real joy. Real joy. Um, both words are in capital letters. Real joy. Um, the next sentence, inasmuch as you do it unto the least of these, my children, really ends with you do it unto yourself and um, me. So I'll just say that you know how someone is supposed to be in A Course in Miracles: holy, joyous, conflict free, and that's 100% of the time. 100% of the time, every moment, everyone is supposed to be holy, joyous. This is in the book more than once. It says it in different sentences, in different ways, but that is the truth, is that everyone is supposed to be 100% joyous at all times, moment to moment, without exception. Uh, that's the mentality that the enlightened Jesus had and that any enlightened being has. So this might be in the book as far as in as much as you do it unto the least of these my children, really ends with you do it unto yourself and me. That could be in the book. Sounds a little bit familiar. I'm not sure, but um, everything you do, um, everything has to be done in the will of God. That's the primary idea to truth. Everything has to be done in the will of God. Thought, word, action, moment to moment. So in that sense, you're doing it unto anything, any thought, word, or action in any way of any kind is done to um, others, yourself, God. I mean, all are included in absolutely every thought, word, and action, is the idea in the book. Okay, so more that doesn't, it's definitely not in the book and doesn't sound like automatic writing to me. Sounds more like Helen writing. Well, okay, no. Okay, so this is in the book here as far as I do not need miracles for my own atonement, but I stand at the end in case you fail temporarily. Um, yeah. Jesus of Nazareth is a perfected being, so he doesn't need any development. I would call it. Anyone with any ego mentality in any way whatsoever needs to let go of that ego mentality, to not have that ego mentality. So anyone with any ego mentality needs miracles in that sense to heal themselves of the ego mentality, to get rid of the ego mentality, to have nothing but God mind, God mentality. So the sentence here says, "But I stand at the end in case you fail temporarily." Um, Jesus certainly sent his spirit to this world after his death and resurrection to help us, to help every human alive to grow spiritually in terms of peace, joy, goodness, strength, etc., etc. That is a truth. It's sort of said in ACIM, I think, and the term Holy Spirit sometimes in ACIM might say it in that way. Might the book might be using the word Holy Spirit in that way, in terms of the Spirit of Jesus helping people on this earth. But that entire idea about that is more of a Urantia book um, explanation. Urantia book explains it very well about Jesus sending his Spirit to this world um, after his death and resurrection. Urantia, Urantia. Um, But certainly, ACIM talks about Jesus is always available for help. Jesus should always be asked what to do if you're uncertain in any way whatsoever. If you have the least little um, disappointment, distress, doubt, anxiety, concern, I mean, the least little bit of anxiety about anything, ask God Himself, ask Jesus, ask Spirit, ask Holy Spirit, ask any of these beings or forces, spiritual forces, to help you or to help myself make the decision in terms of what to think, say, or do in every moment. That's in the book a lot about asking for help in terms of thought, word, and action. That is in the book much. Different sentences. So sounds like more Helen writing. I see here the sentence says two come together in my name. I mean, for me, ACIM is saying that everything is about relationship. Um, I mean, there's a couple sentences in the book that sort of say nothing is for yourself. Like it might be in the book, it might be specific about what is not for yourself. But to me, an important idea for truth is nothing is for yourself. Everything is about everything is for someone else. Um, this is what I believe. Zero selfishness, zero selfishness. Everything you think, say, and do is for someone else in terms of relationship with someone else, whether it's God or another person, whomever. Um, Everything is about relationship. That's certainly in the book in terms of what it says about relationship. Every relationship should be a holy relationship. A holy relationship is a relationship that is perfectly in the will of God in every way, thought, word, and action, in every moment, with everyone, in every way. Everything should be a holy relationship. Um, and there's a right way and a wrong way. The book says, the mind can be right or wrong. And then it goes on to talk about right mindedness versus wrong mindedness. I believe that's in the manual for teachers, but to me, the simple truth is the mind can be right or wrong in terms of what it's thinking, and then thought leads to action. So if there's wrong thinking, that would lead to wrong action or wrong behavior. Um, and like the book is very clear, you can't correct your mind by correcting behavior. Although there's nothing wrong with correcting behavior, the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. But to get comfortable with what real truth is and the will of God, certainly mentally, everything has to be the truth in terms of thought and belief about absolutely everything from a practical standpoint that we do as human beings, and in every other way. Like the beliefs, thoughts about things have to be true, have to be true, versus false. They can be false. If they're false, actions will lead to guilt feelings. But in any event, here it says, as two come together in my name. Uh, Again, the book is very clear about you are never alone. Never alone. You are either with God Himself, the first person of the Trinity, or you're with others, but you are always with God, the first person of the Trinity, at all times. So, to me, that would be the idea of two, at all times. Okay, so um, no real threat is involved anywhere. Just because nature abhors a vacuum, which is true enough, it does not follow that a vacuum is filled with hellfire. Nothing is gained by frightening yourself, and it is very destructive. Miracles need freedom from fear. Part of their atonement value involves just that. The word atone really means undo. I don't know how much of this is actually in the book. Some of it might be. The book uses the word sin a lot. Um, I see here something about sin and the phrase absence of love. I mean, there, all these ideas are sort of the same. There's many ideas that are sort of the same. But sin, to me, the average contemporary understanding that sin is that which is not the will of God. To commit a sin is to do something which is not the will of God, to violate the will of God. And certainly sin includes having any negative emotion, guilt, doubt, shame, remorse, fear, anxiety, worry, loneliness, etc., etc. That would definitely be sin, because that is never the will of God. Um, Learning means change is a fairly major big topic in this book to some degree. Learning means change. So you, anyone has to be willing to change thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, actions, moment to moment. Admit I'm wrong about how I'm thinking, what I believe, and change to the true belief in every way, moment to moment, constantly making changes to grow into the God mind. Is another idea in this book about how important change is. It's in there. It's in the book. Um, uh, no real threat is involved anywhere. Maybe in the book. I mean, certainly there are sentences similar to that in the book. Um, um, nature, just because nature abhors a vacuum, which is true enough, it does not follow that a vacuum is filled with hellfire. I don't. Nature abhors a vacuum. I feel like that might be in A Course in Miracles, that little expression somewhere. Um, Nothing is gained by frightening yourself, and it is very destructive. Uh, I don't. That doesn't sound like A Course in Miracles to me, although it might be. Miracles need freedom from fear. Yes, yes, they do. Part of their atonement value involves just that. The word atone really means undo. So this book talks a lot about the undoing of the egoic mind. Like, we have mental energy. We have mental energy. The mind is mental energy, the mental body. There's a sentence in this book. It says, all thinking creates form in the mind. So any of that mental energy that is ego mental energy, meaning that which is not the will of God energy in terms of beliefs and thoughts, have to be removed. They have to go. They cannot be in the mind. When all ego mentality is gone from the mind, there's nothing but the God mind there. And then that would be Jesus like God consciousness or Buddha enlightenment. That's the mentality that would be had if there's no egoic mental energy in the mind. So it's really transforming, and I believe the book does use the word transforming the ego mental energy into God mind energy. The mind is real. That's definitely in the book. Thoughts are real. Um, Thoughts are powerful. Many senses about that idea in the book, and it's a truth, and it's about transforming any mental energy that's not God mental energy into God mental energy, transforming the ego mental energy into God mental energy. That's the undoing process that the book talks about. Also, unlearning, same sort of idea. Also in the book, a lot.